Hello, I'm Declan Curry and I'm here with Anthony Ainsworth, who is the Chief Operating Officer at npower Business Solutions, to discuss the insight from their latest business energy tracker. Each year, npower Business Solutions gathers the views of British business on the core issues of the energy market, energy policy and net zero. And the focus this year is on Clean Power 2030, looking at the target of delivering a clean power system by that year, by 2030, and what that might mean for business in terms of the costs, the benefits, and also the risks. So, Anthony, welcome to our discussion. Tell us a bit about the Business Energy Tracker. Tell us why npower Business Solutions carries out the research.
I'd be delighted to do so. So this is the fourth year that we've carried out this survey where we talk to hundreds of major energy users in the UK to not only find out about energy questions for them, but also what are the risks and concerns that they're facing. And why do we do that? Because we pride ourselves on being the voice of business and being able to represent that into the stakeholder groups and into government. So it's the fourth time that we've done this. And as you say, we're drilling down on what does Clean Power 2030 mean for businesses in the UK, particularly around costs and competitiveness.
And what are businesses say? What are the key takeaways from the research?
So the key takeaways are that business energy costs remain the number one concern for businesses overall. So right at the top of every corporate agenda. Behind that, they're concerned about the growing cost, the growing proportion of non-commodity costs that make up a bill. So for energy users, business energy users, the majority of the bill is not the wholesale costs, it's actually network costs, policy costs and system costs. And we expect those to rise in the future, and we can talk about that a little bit.
So not just the cost of the energy that they're actually using, but all the other extras that are loaded up on.
Absolutely. So it's the cost of keeping the system running and making it work. But with Clean Power 2030, it is the cost of that transition and where that cost falls on energy bills.
And what do you think is going to happen to those costs, particularly those costs that are linked to net zero?
So businesses really support net zero. That's clear from our survey. Over 2/3 of them say that Clean Power 2030 and a pathway to net zero is the right thing to do for them and their customers. But what they're really concerned about is the cost of that and where that falls. And those non-commodity charges that make up the majority of the bill are forecast to rise by up to 55% over the next 5 years. So the costs of business energy are just going to go up.
That's a huge increase in a short period of time. Does it have to be so much so quickly?
If you've got an ambitious plan for decarbonising the economy by 2030, you have a short space of time. You've got to get the investment in. You've got to get the system working. I would question whether it's trying to pay off the mortgage too quickly. Maybe there's something about spreading those costs over a longer period. But if we want to make the transition, then we have to invest, and those bills have got to be borne. Businesses are prepared to pay their way, but there is a question of, is it a little bit too much too soon?
Is there a way of mitigating those costs?
Yeah, we can look at it in a couple of different ways. So for businesses themselves, I would always encourage them to really understand their energy usage site by site. And the best way is to try and control that, reduce it, be more energy efficient. Okay, so that's the first thing to do, is understand what you're doing, be more energy efficient. The second thing is, can you make some investments in terms of on-site generation, or can you look at maybe corporate PPAs where it helps you avoid some of those network costs? So that's the first side of things. On the other side of things, it's actually talking to government. Now, the benefit of doing the Business Energy Tracker over the last few years is that the things that are important to business, we've talked to government, we've talked to stakeholders, and they've listened and take those things on board, such as extending capital allowance relief for investments, and cutting red tape and changing the planning regime going forward. So that's been really good. Right now, what businesses are saying is they want support for the corporate PPA market. They'd be really interested in more targeted support to help reduce the bills in the short term, and also encourage more investment in energy efficiency and on-site generation.
There's a fundamental question here, which is, should business be asked to pay for these costs? You can see why politicians don't want to make domestic customers, homeowners, pay for those costs. But is it really right that it falls on the shoulders of business?
Perhaps I'd turn that around, Declan, and say, actually, it's about maintaining competitiveness of British industry. The businesses I supply through npower Business Solutions account for about 15% of GDP. So it's a big proportion of what we do. And it's about being competitive, it's about protecting jobs, and therefore it's about growth, and everybody benefits from growth. So competitive energy prices help that equation and help the economy. Now, in the UK, our business energy costs are 50% higher than what is paid in, say, France or Germany, or 4 times higher than what's paid in the US. So if we want to be competitive on a global scale or even a European scale, we have to look at where those policy costs are landing. Now, I think it is fair that businesses who've generally got broader shoulders, generally can invest and be more efficient, that pays its fair share of those. But I do question the length of time that we're trying to recover those costs over.
So that would be that would be something that would make a real difference, is extending that amount of time.
I think it would. You know, the household analogy is, you know, you've bought your house. Do you pay off your mortgage over 25 or 30 years, or do you try it and do it over 5? And I think in this context, actually trying to spread those costs over a longer period will help British business be more competitive over the next 5 to 10 years.
And the reason the costs are higher here than in France or Germany or the US, is it those transition costs? Is it net zero to blame?
Well, I think some of it is what sets the marginal price of energy. So if you're in France, for example, then you have nuclear power as the base load there. In the US, you have gas, fracking, etc. So the price setting mechanisms are slightly different, but the policy costs on the UK British energy bill are over 50% of the bill, and we expect them to rise to 75% of the bill, and that is the main difference.
Even with those higher costs, what your research tells us is that business is still in favour of the switch to clean energy. Why are they still supportive of it?
They're supportive of it because ultimately it's good for them, for the businesses, it's good for their employees, it's good for their shareholders and stakeholders. So decarbonising the economy, I mean, you know, who can argue with that from a moral or ethical point of view, that is the right thing to do. But also we're talking about lower bills over the longer term by more renewable energy and being more in control of our energy supply and security in the UK, and that's important as well. So if you think, I kind of think of it, if I was having a conversation in the C-suite, then your chief operating officer, he wants reliability of supply so that he can run his businesses. So that's the reliability point. The CFO, he wants cost. You know, he wants cost certainty, he wants policy certainty, and finds ways to be more efficient and drive those. So that's the cost angle. The CEO, obviously, he wants both of those things, but also he has to think about how is he positioning his business with his stakeholders, his customers, and his employees as well. And that's where net zero pays in as well. And
is there a danger that support for clean energy in business is undermined by these higher costs in the years ahead?
I don't think it helps the argument at the moment when we see those costs potentially rising so much. And of course, businesses aren't completely divorced from what's going on in the rest of the world and the conversations around the costs of net zero and where they fall. But I think business should take a positive stand towards this, but also make sure its voice is heard with government about making sure that the costs fall reasonably and over a reasonable time frame.
How does npower Business Solutions support its customers, support British business in this transition?
Yeah, so we want to help them be competitive and get the best deals that they can for their energy costs, understand not only their consumption, but everything that makes up the bill and charging periods and everything. So we have an optimization desk, our sort of market analysis teams that will work with large customers and help understand the shape of business energy flows and costs and stuff like that. But also we've got a sister business that helps with energy efficiency, on-site generation and decarbonisation. So we try and help in that whole circular piece.
But there is action that government could take as well.
Yeah, we think there is definitely action that government can take, and the business energy tracker is really clear. So developing the corporate PPA market, so large customers can have a direct relationship with a renewable generator, and that is to be more efficient and that can reduce costs. But government can also look at where policy costs are falling, how are those recovered. So there's the British supercharger and industrial competitiveness, which offers some relief to the larger businesses. You could look at how the release are extended a little more broadly. That is something they could do. And also encouraging energy efficiency investment as well.
The government is saying things on this. It is making some of the right noises. Whether that translates into action or not is another matter, of course.
It is. So, our job is to present the facts, the information, present what businesses are saying, knock on the door of politicians and make sure those messages are loud and clear.
If you were the energy secretary, or whatever we call them nowadays, for a day, what would you do? What's the one policy step you would take?
To narrow it down to one would be quite a challenge, but I think I would look at the time period over which we're trying to recover the costs of the energy transition.
Anthony, thank you very much. Anthony Ainsworth there, the Chief Operating Officer at npower Business Solutions. And if you want some more information on what we've been talking about, the Business Energy Tracker is available for download right now.